Lucy Hoyle, a certified feline behaviourist and author of the book Your Cat Wishes You Would Read, which is available now. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more tips about your cat's behaviour. So today, me and Fig are talking to you about neutering and why it's super important that you do it, both for the health of your individual cat and for the well-being of cats as a species overall. So if we think about the health of your individual cat, if you have a male cat, you will probably notice a marked difference in your cat's behaviour when compared to that of a neutered male, because they have that preoccupation with going out and mating. So firstly, you'll probably notice if they do go outside that they roam a lot further. So they're looking for a female basically. So they're going to be going further, they're going to be putting themselves at risk. So they might be crossing busy roads and being at risk of being hit by traffic. They might go so far that they can't find their way back, or they only check in every few days because they're doing such a wide area that they're not having to come back so frequently. So we want to avoid those sorts of risks. Secondly, they're going to be more open to fighting with other cats. So any other entire males out there, they're going to be considered competition for females. So it's horrible when cats fight. They, especially two entire males, they fight much more severely than your normal fighting that you might see between neuter cats. So they might be injured, you might find they have abscesses. Entire cats are normally, if they have access outside, normally quite scabby and a bit rough and ready. So we don't really want them to have to experience that or to feel like they need to fight other cats to be able to access females. So again, with fighting, there is also the risk of picking up certain diseases as well. So we don't want him being exposed to those as well. So it's really important to curb his enthusiasm for going outside and for roaming far and wide and potentially getting himself into fights. Also with not neutered males, that you might find that they urine mark more, and obviously that makes total sense. They're trying to attract female, so they might spray if they're inside, and particularly if you've got a cat that is an indoor cat, then they're genuinely going to need to spray because they haven't got the opportunity to go out and find that female for themselves. So they'll be spraying to attract the female closer to home. So if you have a cat that's spraying and they are not neutered, that would be the first thing I recommend. And there's no point me coming in to try to help a person who's dealing with a spraying cat if that cat is not neutered, because that's a massive, massive motivator that will only be removed if they're neutered. So that's another good reason why to neuter. And generally, neuter cats don't make as nice a pets. I'm sure they are nice, and I had an entire cat when I was younger and he was lovely, but he was not concerned about being a pet. His main priority was going out, finding females and checking back in every now and again. So they make much nicer pets. Fig, if you remove that preoccupation of finding females. Come here. But also for females, so you might think that if your female cat doesn't go outside, then there's no need to neuter them. There's no point, they're not going to get pregnant. And I do agree that that's the case. However, you will also notice changes in their behaviour too. So if they come on heat, which they will, then their behaviour is quite difficult and quite challenging to live with. So they will call, and the calling is quite annoying. So it's quite long, drawn out meowing, quite relentless, happening all the time. And nothing will stop that because they're basically calling for a male, and they're on heat. So that will just continue until that's passed. And it can happen, well, it will happen multiple times throughout their lives, so that's very annoying. Also, while they're in heat, you'll often find that they are quite restless and they show signs of frustration. So they might be hanging around the doors trying to get out, they might be pacing around a lot, and they often put themselves in that position where, I think it's called lordosis, where their sort of tummies on the ground, their butts in the air, their tails up, and they're sort of presenting and hoping that a mating opportunity will come around. That being said, if your female cat does have access outside and they're not neutered, chances are they're going to fall pregnant pretty quickly, and the mating itself is actually horrible. So male cats have spines on their penis, so once they've mated, if you've ever heard this before, you'll hear the female do an awful scream, an awful like cry out afterwards because it's so painful. So we don't want her to have to go through that, and she'll often mate with lots of males in like quick succession as well. So it's quite an experience, and if you're not planning on getting your cat pregnant, well, if you are planning on for your cat being pregnant, I would recommend doing it properly with a breeder and a stud cat rather than just letting her out and seeing what happens. Because again, there's the risk of disease, there's a risk of fighting, and its experience itself is horrible. So so definitely a good reason to neuter your female cats as well, although it's not a bigger problem. It's not behaviourally, it's not so different compared to two males, a neutered and entire male, and neutered and entire females generally are the same unless they're on heat. So that's something to bear in mind. So thinking about the experience or the experience of neutering for the species as a whole, it's really important, really, just for the overpopulation of kittens. There are just so many cats looking for homes, and if you work in rescue, then obviously you'll understand that there's always cats looking for homes. There are waiting lists that are hundreds full sometimes, and in my work I go to people's homes and I help them with their cat's behaviour, and sometimes if we're not able to solve it, in that they're in the wrong environment genuinely and it's too stressful and they can't cope there, and rehoming is the best option, where do they go? They can't join a waiting list of 30 or 40 cats, because what are they going to do in the weeks in between? So I've come across this quite frequently, and it's made me quite passionate about getting cats neutered and keeping that population under control, just so that we're not overrun with cats looking for homes, because it's so sad, these cats being bounced around and not really having anywhere to go, spending forever in rescue or in the wrong homes. Also, cats tend to get a bad rep for hunting. So obviously one individual cat hunting isn't going to make much of a dent in the population of wildlife. However, if you have an overpopulation of cats, then obviously this has a knock-on effect on how much wildlife they hunt, particularly if they're free-living cats. That's where the main problem is. So if you have an entire cat that makes its way into the free-living cat population, which is very common because, you know, they're out there to mate, so that's what they do. They roam far and wide. They might not be able to find their way back. You might find that they end up as a stray or as a feral, and any kittens they have with feral mums, then they're going to be feral too, and it just escalates. So we really want to keep cats out of the free-living population of other cats, so make sure neutering is one of the main things that you can do. So kittens can be neutered from as early as 4 months of age, because that's when they can fall pregnant, and kittens getting pregnant is just the most horrible thing. So I would speak to your vet about neutering as early as possible, because that can be a massive help, and you might think that they're not old enough to fall pregnant and let them out, and then inadvertently they fall pregnant and come home pregnant. So yeah, go for it. And I do understand that putting them through the stress of neutering appointment might be challenging and expensive, but there are places that can help, and in terms of it being stressful for them, it's much better for them long term. So thank you if you already have a cat who's neutered like mine, and thank you if you work in rescue and you're having to deal with this on a daily basis, because I understand how difficult that can be. And if you're wondering whether or not to get your cat neutered, I would say across the board it's a yes, unless you have any massive valid reasons why not. But there you go. I hope that was helpful. I'm glad Figgy made an appearance, and make sure to subscribe for any more tips. And my book is available on Amazon. I'll put the link in the comments, or it's available in your local bookshop. Go into your local bookshops too. Have a good day and take care. Bye.